In 2018, I said I wanted to conquer binge eating. And in 2019, that's actually when I had my binge free year. And I want to walk you through the difference between 2018 and 2019 and what really was the catalyst to having my binge free year. So for context, I've always enjoyed eating healthy. Eating healthy was never the problem for me. Working out was never a problem for me. The problem for me was feeling out of control with food. And in 2018, at the time, I was, tracking calories and macros. I was trying keto. I was trying intermittent fasting. I was trying all these different things. And I was a personal trainer and I was, training other people. So again, I was in the health industry. And everyone else around me was doing some type of diet. People around me were either tracking their food, like I said, doing intermittent fasting, doing keto, doing some type of diet. But after spending 10 years of my life on some type of diet, I started to feel like I can't do this anymore. Like I have a very unhealthy relationship with food, and I was starting to recognize that because food was on my mind 24/7. I'd be able to eat healthy, no problem all day, but then come the evening, I would literally be eating 5 to 7 desserts and going through these out-of-body experiences and then going to bed feeling so uncomfortably full, uncomfortable in my own skin, waking up the next morning still full, still bloated from how much I ate last night. And I started to recognize this was not normal. Like going to a restaurant and having to look up the menu a week in advance, I'm like, that's not normal. And so I said to myself, I'm like, something needs to change. And it was the scariest thing because for so many years of my life, I was on some type of diet plan. So it almost felt like even though my body was intellectually telling me, Lorna, you need to stop dieting. You have to start, eating intuitively. Like you have to let go of these rules. I knew that because the diets just made me think, hi, Charlotte. The diets just made me think about food and calories so much more, but it was scary. Nobody else around me was eating intuitively. Everybody was on a diet. So I kind of thought to myself, am I going to purposely be gaining weight? Am I going to be seen as lazy? Am I going to be seen as oh, she just doesn't care anymore? And are people going to think I just gave up on myself? These were the thoughts that I was thinking. And then I said to myself, but I need to do what's best for me. And it's not that eating intuitively means you give up on yourself. I've completely rewired my brain and I started seeing actually the people who were trusting themselves, who were having a healthy relationship with food, who were eating intuitively, they were actually healthier because there's nothing more unhealthy than thinking about food, than obsessing over calories and continuously overeating at the majority of your meals. There's nothing healthy about that. Eating breakfast, thinking about what's for lunch. Having lunch, okay, did I get enough protein? Did I get enough vegetables? There's nothing healthy about that. And so as scary as it was to start making this shift into intuitive eating, I was like, I need to do this for me. It's not healthy for me to be on these diets anymore. However, in 2018, I would see all these people talk about food freedom and intuitive eating. And they were, eating chips and chocolate and Pop-Tarts and pizza and ice cream. And for me, that kind of turned me off, to be honest with you. Yes, I have a sweet tooth. And there was periods of time where I remember as a kid, I'd be watching hockey with my dad and we would have mint chocolate chip ice cream, or what was the other one? It was mint chocolate chip ice cream and I think just a regular chocolate chip ice cream. And I wanted to be able to eat ice cream without feeling guilty, but I didn't want to be like purposely eating all these processed foods. Like I wasn't interested in that, but I didn't know what else to do. So I went to the store and I started buying all of these foods because I'm like, well, I'm not dieting anymore. I could have all of these foods. So I remember going home and just having all these like processed foods in the house. There's bagels and cereals and crackers and just all this like processed foods that normally, honestly, I wasn't really interested in because I've always enjoyed eating healthy. And I started having bagels and cereal. I am not even joking you, at almost every single meal. Because I was like, I'm not dieting anymore. I can. And I would have my bagel with almond butter or peanut butter, and then I'd have my cereal, and then I would have dried mangoes, and then lunch would come, and I would have my bagel again and my cereal, and I started to feel like absolute crap. I started to feel like absolute crap. And honestly, I felt so uncomfortable in my own skin. I felt lethargic. I felt bloated. I felt heavy. And I thought to myself, there is no way that this is healthy. I don't want to be dieting, but I also don't want to be eating whatever I want. I also don't want to be feeling like crap and bloated all the time. And so I recognized that I don't want food freedom. I didn't want food freedom. I didn't want to be able to just eat whatever I wanted. I wanted to be able to still continue eating healthy because I enjoyed it, but I didn't want to sabotage my progress by coming home in the evenings every single night and having 5 to 7 desserts, even though I was eating my mom's homemade almond flour cookies or these chocolate almond butter bars that she would make with homemade ingredients. I didn't want to feel out of control with food anymore. And so I didn't focus on food freedom. Julie said this is exactly where I'm at. So you're going to find this really helpful because I know so many people start going down the route of food freedom. But then it's like it's like you want to have freedom, but you also don't want to just eat whatever you want, right? Because you're like, I want to feel good in my own skin. I want to be healthy. I want to have energy in the gym. I want to be able to crush my workouts, all these different things that I wanted for myself. And so I remember 2018, I focused on food freedom. And that's when I did not have my binge free year. I was out of control and I felt like crap. 2019 came and I said, I am going to do things differently. I am going to do things differently. I am going to rewire my brain to eliminate my urges because I was having these demanding, persistent, strong urges that didn't feel like me. If you have urges right now, let me know in the chat box. You can say yes in the chat. If you have urges where it feels like it's not even you, right? It's like some outside force that's like demanding you to go into the pantry and eat more when you know you're already full. And so I said, I have urges for junk food constantly. So I was having urges. Charlotte's like, yep. Julie said I have urges. So I was like, it doesn't matter how healthy I like to eat, how much I like working out. You have to get rid of these urges because you are eating in a way that doesn't feel like you, which means you're in a body that also doesn't feel like yours. And so in 2019, I focused on rewiring my brain and eliminating my urges. And what that actually meant was I needed to practice not giving into my urges. So this is all habitual, right? So if you feel an urge to binge and you give in, you are creating this habit into your brain. And this is what makes it harder and more challenging to not give in to the next urge because your urges intensify the more times you actually give in. And it's so easy to say one more time. It's so easy to say, but I deserve it. It's so easy to say, but it's like a reward at the end of the night. It's so easy to feel really motivated first thing in the morning, and at the end of the day, you're like, I actually don't give 10 shits. I'm just gonna eat. I don't even care. I don't even care if I'm bloated. I don't even care how uncomfortable I feel. I'm just giving in. Yes, it's very much a habit, absolutely. And this is why you have to rewire your brain. And so I practiced not giving into my urges. And every single time that I didn't give into an urge, the next urge became less intense. The next urge after that became even less intense. And then it became easier for me to not give in to my urges and therefore stop binge eating much sooner. But here's also what I did. I still, pay attention here, you guys. I still gave into my cravings. There's a difference between cravings and urges. So how long did it take you? Honestly, I get this question asked very often. And I don't know. Because here's the thing, the reason I'm over 5 years binge free, I never focused on how long did it take me. I never said, how long is it going to take me? I didn't care. I spent 10 years of my life restricting, binging, feeling out of control with food, feeling uncomfortable in my own skin, that I didn't care how long it was going to take me. I wanted to stop so that I could have the rest of my life being present with my family, eating like a normal person. And so it took me a year plus, but I don't know, like from this date to this date, like I didn't track anything because I didn't care, to be honest. I just showed up so consistently for myself every single day until I conquered. And the clients that I work with, they conquer because they're not worried about the timeline. They're like, I'm going to do this. Doesn't matter how long it's going to take. I'm committed. I want to do things sustainably. And they commit to rewiring their brain, and they don't have urges. We do things sustainably. So don't focus on the timeline, okay? Don't focus on the timeline. So I stopped giving into my urges, but I still gave into my cravings. Now, why is this really important? When you give into your cravings, you stop having urges. You know what urges actually are? They are cravings that aren't given into. So let me explain what I mean by this. Let's say you are craving some chocolate after dinner one day. You have a sweet tooth. And yes, I will share of what to do when the urge comes in a second. And by the way, if you guys have not yet joined I'm doing a free 3-day masterclass happening next week on how to make 2026 your binge-free year. It's completely free. It's 3 days. I'm going to share with you the exact process of how to make 2026 your binge-free year by focusing on rewiring your brain, eliminating your urges, and having freedom of choice so that you are in the driver's seat of your food choices, not your urges. So the link is in my bio, by the way, if you want to join. We kick off next week on Monday. So urges are cravings that you don't give into. So if you're craving something sweet, like some chocolate after dinner one day, and you tell yourself, don't do it, don't give in, because you think you shouldn't be giving into the chocolate. What happens is all you're thinking about is the chocolate. And then what ends up happening is you start feeling impulsive. You start now having this urge, the craving that was so innocent has now intensified and turned into a strong urge to binge. And now it feels like you have no choice but to give in. And so now you don't just have a few pieces of chocolate, you go to town and you end up having the chocolate and then the ice cream and then the wheat thins and then the bagel and then the cereal and then the dried mangoes, the sweet and then the salty. And then you are in a full-blown binge and you feel like you don't have control. So most people don't give in to their cravings but then you end up giving into urges. What I did was I started giving into my cravings, which made it easier for me to not give in to my urges. Because when you give into a craving, you have some chocolate, a true physical craving, and then that craving doesn't intensify and build up into an urge. So, why do I only feel safe eating when I count calories, but not without? Because you want to know. So this has to, most of the time, has to do with body image. Because it's like, well, if I know exactly how much I'm eating, then I'm not going to gain weight. If I know exactly how much I'm eating, then I'm going to, reach my goals. And this also is like, I don't trust myself, so I need to have rules. I don't trust myself, so I need to count exactly all the calories. Because I don't trust myself. I don't know how much to eat. This is what you're thinking. I don't know how much to eat. So somebody needs to tell me how much to eat. I need to count my calories because I don't trust myself. And you're so worried about, your body changing or gaining weight that you're like, I need to box myself in. And so it doesn't feel safe for you to just kind of like not track because you're like, well, I'm probably going to go overboard. But actually, the exact opposite happens when you build up self-trust and you stop counting. You actually have less urges, less food thoughts, and you're actually able to leave each meal feeling comfortably full and satisfied, because when you're counting calories, it's like this obsession, and then you feel deprived, and then you have these strong urges, and then you end up binging so much more. Okay. Now, if somebody asked, what are some tangible things that you can do when the urge to binge comes on? Well, a few different things. The first thing is you want to prevent your urges from arising in the first place. And like I said, how to actually start doing this is by honoring your cravings. Eating exactly what you're craving, that will help you have less urges, and then it's going to be easier. Because right now, a lot of people wait until they feel very impulsive. And then it's like, I need to try to not give in. Don't do it. But at that point, you're already impulsive. You already decided you are going to binge. It is so much harder to not give in when you are in this impulsive state already. Versus eating exactly what you're craving. You're going to be less impulsive. You're going to have less urges. And then it's going to be easier for you to not give in. So that's one strategy. But the second thing is you got to create a state change in your body. I talk about this quite frequently. So creating a state change in your body. So either hopping in a cold shower, shaking your body, doing breathing techniques, breathwork techniques, that's going to create a state change in your body. That's way different than telling yourself don't give in. If you just tell yourself don't binge, like that's not effective because you're going to end up doing it. Your body doesn't feel different. You still have that urge. You're still impulsive. So you got to regulate your body. You got to regulate your nervous system so your body feels more grounded, more calm, more at ease, and therefore it's easier to not give in. I hate how calorie counting has been normalized. I could have gone better without it. But the thing is, is let that go. It's scary. It is freaking scary. But at the same time, it's even more scarier spending the rest of your life tracking your food. You can absolutely trust yourself. And again, when you eliminate your urges, you're going to be less impulsive. And so you're going to have less binges, less sessions of overeating. You're not going to have to even track your food. The reason why most people are binging is because there's some type of restriction going on. So let that go. You are safe. I had this freedom mindset after dieting. I let myself have whatever, but now sweets are a bad habit. And that's the thing. So most people go from one extreme to the other because it's like, I've been dieting for so long and I can't have this. And then you just get so freaking frustrated and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to eat whatever I want because you've been so deprived for so long. But then you end up feeling like crap. and feeling out of control because, like you said, it's like I just keep on eating all these sweets. And so this is where also, Julie, like tough love comes into play. And I'm not the coach that's going to tell you, it's fine, just continue eating whatever you want because you don't feel good. So this is where you got to give yourself tough love, Julie, and tell yourself, this is not who I am. I am a freaking badass and I don't want to be eating sweets 24/7. Yes, I want to be able to, have something sweet, absolutely. But when I'm doing it in a way that's impulsive, that's not the real me. So I got to put on tough love to say, this is not who I am. This is not a craving. It's all habitual. And the only way I'm going to break out of this habitual cycle is if I practice not giving in. Is it uncomfortable? Absolutely. But you can sit in the discomfort. Honestly, thank you for your TikTok. You're the first person who's ever made sense. Well, I appreciate that. It really does help, working with someone or getting support from someone who has past lived experience because it's so important to feel understood. So I'm glad that you feel understood here. So going back to what I was saying, you're welcome, Julie. 2018, I said I wanted to stop binge eating, but I didn't because I was focusing on food freedom. 2019, I committed to conquering binge eating through rewiring my brain, eliminating my urges, and focusing on freedom of choice where I was in the driver's seat, not my urges. And that's how I had a binge-free year. I stopped giving into my urges. I gave into my cravings, which made it easier for me to not have urges and therefore not give in. So that's more of like the strategy side of things. Food freedom, biggest scam I've ever done. Yeah, it's like nobody wants to feel like crap. It's like, just eat whatever you want. How do I know what's an urge and what's a craving? Okay, you need to check in with your body. So if, let's say, you are like, you feel like I need to give in right away. Your heart rate increases. It feels like this out-of-body experience. You don't really know specifically what you want. It's like, oh, I just want to relax. I want the feeling of comfort. That's an urge. A craving is specific. I want the chocolate chip muffin. I want a smoothie. I want XYZ food. When your body is, you know what? A cookie sounds really good right now. It's specific and your body feels more relaxed. That's a craving. When it's like, I need to give in right away, maybe nobody's home, you're standing up and you're eating super fast, that's an urge. So check in with how your body is physically feeling, okay? That's the biggest difference. So that's more of the strategy. Now, again, you need the right mindset. How easy is it January 1st to say, I'm going to have my binge-free year, I got this, I'm not going to binge? And then as soon as you have a session of overeating, or as soon as you end up binging or eating too much, you feel defeated, you're being an a-hole to yourself, you're judging yourself, you're shaming yourself, you're not going to conquer, you're being so mean to yourself. That's not going to help you have your binge-free year. A badass does not speak down on herself. A badass lifts herself up and says that a session of overeating is not a failure. She extracts the feedback and the wisdom to say, how can I do things differently next time? So you can say, I'm going to stop my binge eating, but you need the right mindset. You need the right support. You need to practice not giving into your urges. And even if you go a week without binging and then you have your binge, that doesn't mean that you failed. But right now, you're judging yourself, you're shaming yourself, you're speaking negatively to yourself. And that's what makes you feel defeated and like, I can't do this. No, you can. You absolutely can. have your binge-free year and completely rewire your brain, but you have to practice not giving into your urges and you have to watch your mindset. If you're judging yourself, shaming yourself, feeling defeated, letting a binge define whether you're going to have your binge-free year or not, you are not going to have your binge-free year because it's going to feel defeating. So you need to have a rock solid, badass mindset. Even if you've just binged, you have to get back up and say, that doesn't define my binge-free year. Even if you just overate, instead of beating yourself up, you got to be the badass that says, you know what? It's okay. That was one session and I'm still going to have my binge-free year. Get out of the perfectionist mindset. It is so unrealistic for you to say, I'm going to have my binge-free year and you never overeat. That will get to a point, right? So now I'm over 5 years binge-free. I've had 7 back-to-back social events and I left every single one of them feeling so comfortably satisfied, not full, not overly full, but you will get there. But as you are healing your relationship with food, you can't expect yourself to not overeat or binge, especially at the beginning. It's part of the process as you are rewiring your brain. So most people will say, I want my binge-free year, but they don't have their binge-free year because 1, they focus on food freedom versus freedom of choice. Number 2, they only don't give into their binge urges a few times here and there versus rewiring your brain to eliminate your urges. And then the third one, you don't have a rock solid badass mindset. Your mindset is like up and down. It's like you don't binge. You're like, I'm going to have my binge for a year. You're so positive. You're so happy. And then you overeat and you're beating yourself up and you're feeling like a failure. So if you want to work on these 3 things, you want to be able to have freedom of choice. So you're still eating the foods that make you feel good and eating healthy without spiraling out of control. You want to have freedom of choice where you are in the driver's seat, not your urges. And you have a rock solid badass mindset and you've completely rewired your brain so you no longer feel an urge to binge. I would encourage you to join the free 3-day masterclass, your binge-free year that I'm running starting next week. Completely free. It's 3 days. It's called your binge-free year. And this is where I help you make 2026 the year you become binge-free. Again, by rewiring your brain and eliminating your urges, having freedom of choice, not food freedom, and having a rock solid, badass mindset to stay committed to the process no matter what. So be sure to join. We kick off on Monday. It's going to be incredible. I cannot wait to support you. I'm going to work on the strategy and the mindset. You need both. You can't just focus on one or the other. You need both to have your binge-free year. So thank you guys so much for being here. I cannot wait to see you inside of your binge-free year. We kick off on Monday, 3 days. It's going to be incredible. If you need the link, you can also message me, 2026, and I'll send you the link. B, you're so welcome. Are you going to be on the masterclass? Be sure to join if you haven't yet. Be sure to join if you haven't yet. It's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. So, thank you for being here. Happy freaking New Year. I am so batshit committed to helping more of you guys conquer binge eating in 2026. And for those of you guys who are also committed to making this the year you become binge free, we're going to have a really amazing time together in 2026. So I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see you inside and have a beautiful, blessed day. Okay. Bye, you guys.